Thanks for checking out the video forecast. I'm forecaster Eric Weglarz. We continue to track Hurricane Joaquin as it moves across the Central Bahamas. You notice that Joaquin is now a dangerous Category 4 hurricane as it moves across the Central Bahamas. If you notice too on this visible on the rainbow satellite, we have a visible eye wall that's begun to form. You can see it a little bit better on this as opposed to the visible imagery. However, the eye wall is there. And notice that as opposed to that southwesterly motion we've had over the past day or so, we've gone to now this more of a westerly and northwesterly track, and that was expected for the hurricane in the next 12 hours or so. Visible imagery, again, you see that little bit of an eyeball forming. There's a little bit of a depression in the higher level cirrus and stratus here. We have some nice cirrus outflow, again, extending from the hurricane. So this is by no means weakening to any aspect, and it will continue to fluctuate in intensity. It might actually gain a little bit more strength as it moves away from the Bahamas, not really doing too much in the way of weakening it. Your forecast cone from the NHC, again, major hurricane still expected through the Bahamas, but notice the track is a little bit different than what we had this morning and last night for that matter. Joaquin is going to be picked up by an upper level jet almost. It's going to be steered by that rather as it continues to maintain major hurricane strength through the weekend. So it's going to turn towards the north and the northeast, then make a slight turn to the northwest, and then from that point on things begin to get a little bit tricky as to where the forecast goes. I'll show you that too in our spaghetti plots here. So this is a model interpretation, rather all the models that are run in the tropical plots here of where the hurricane will go in the next 72 to 144 hours or so. Notice that we do have a split in between the models. So half the models want to go towards the west, so across places like North Carolina, Virginia, the Delmarva Peninsula, maybe as far south as South Carolina. Those are some of the more mesoscale models. The global models are having a little bit more difficult time where they want to take this storm farther to the east. So the GFS, the European, the UK Met, they're all trending farther to the east, and as a result the NHC has adjusted their track farther to the east as well. Note that the SHIPS model, so some of the more statistical models run as opposed to the dynamical models, keep this more on a more northerly track, so south to north, similar to what you see with this EGR2, so the UK Met. Their model over in the United Kingdom, they have this more southerly to northerly track later in the run. So the NHC is stuck between that and keeping this storm either going inland or out to sea. So despite the fact that we are 3 or 4 days away from it making any sort of notable landfall potentially across the East Coast, there's still a large amount of uncertainty, and that's going to be resolved as the storm continues to move north as opposed to this rather odd southwesterly track we've been seeing. The model intensity has been handled pretty well by some of the high-resolution mesoscale models, in particular the H-WRF and the NOGAPS. And this storm will continue to fluctuate around Category 4 strength. Might get close to Category 5, however, that's not necessarily the forecast by any means, but it can have the potential to do that and very well might do so. But notice the trend as we continue through time, so the next 84 to 120 hours, the storm is going to decrease in intensity as it moves over colder waters and interacts with some more atmospheric features to the north. So GFS ensembles we've been looking at. Notice that yesterday we had a track that was more towards places like Virginia and the Delmarva, and there's more retrograding to the west. We've now almost entirely moved all of the ensemble members to the east. So this goes to show you how the models can flip in a matter of 12 hours or so. We have one of the models right here I'm going to highlight to you with this mouse that does retrograde and then skirts its way off towards Nova Scotia. This is the GFS member that's being used right now as the deterministic member and using the GFS forecast. If we were to go back and look at the tracks, you notice the GFS does begin to retrograde like that and then come back. So that's the one that the Americans have been using in part of the forecast. So why are we having such a difficult time forecasting right now? What is the cause for all this? We have a couple of atmospheric factors right now that are in play that are causing this forecast difficulty. The first is this massive ridge to the north in parts of eastern Canada. It was supposed to decrease a little bit this morning. It never, in fact, did. It's still hanging tough, but again, it's moving generally to the east. So think of it almost as a wall. The hurricane is going to move up along the coast and encounter basically a wall. So this ridge is going to help push Joaquin either way. We're going to go up to 300 millibar analysis. So think of winds and features way high up in the atmosphere, close to the troposphere for that matter. We have a very strong wind gradient here. So we have a upper level jet that propagates vertically, so from south to north across portions of the eastern United States, so like North Carolina, Virginia, the Delmarva up through New England. This jet has again oriented itself. It's going to act as a steering pattern for this. So as Joaquin does move towards the west and towards the north, it's going to encounter this jet and move right along it. So there's an upper level low that continues to dig down across portions of Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee. That low is going to dig in, and Joaquin will interact with the ridge, and then move along that. So basically threading a needle in between two tight areas for where the hurricane could go without being obstructed. So this is the critical components in the forecast in the next 48 to 72 hours as Joaquin does turn towards the north and rapidly accelerate in doing so. We're going to check out the high resolution Wave Watch 3 model, which is going to plot wave height, wave swells, and vectors, so the magnitude of the wind. Notice as we go through time, this is in part using off the GFS. Notice that we have significant wave heights moving towards New England. So while we might not have a direct landfall come when Joaquin does move closer to us, notice that the waves are significantly higher and wave heights are significantly higher as it approaches. So the takeaway here is that while Joaquin might not make landfall or come close enough to making landfall, the key here is that we still have significant wave heights definitely off the coastal waters, and we will see these waves closer towards southern New England, places like Cape Cod and the islands, Rhode Island, southeastern Connecticut. Places that are open to the Atlantic-facing waters have the best shot of seeing higher waves, which could in turn produce some coastal flooding and damage right now. So that's the thing we want to look at right now, is depending on the track of Joaquin, we could have a landfalling tropical system, which is not likely at the moment. We could have one that passes close to us, one that passes towards the Delmarva, places to the south. And if it does skirt close enough, we could be seeing some damaging winds, some rainfall, and potentially some increased wave heights. We'll have another forecast as we get closer to the storm. As we get more information, we will let you know.